Alright guys, I talked about it for years and I finally bit the bullet and got it. Got the plasma cutter. This is one of the cheapest CUT50 plasma cutters you can find. It's an inverter type. It's supposed to cut up to 1/2 inch steel. It's not an industrial model by any means, and I'd much rather have the one at Harbor Freight sells. I have experience using it before, and it seemed like a very nice unit, but I can't afford the several $100s. I think it's like $600 to $800, something like that. Anyway, this was 125 bucks on Amazon, brand new, obviously. It is made in China. It's nothing too special going on here. It's gonna be like a semi-unboxing, like a general review of it. Yeah, it's not like I'm using it, 8 hours a day, every day, or anything like that. So that's kind of why I decided to just go with this. Here's the air hose. This is probably the filter regulator. The ground clamp. I'm not big on unboxing videos, but I just thought this would be kind of something different to show. It's actually bigger than I thought it would be. The picture made it look small. There's the torch. Pretty color. And it came with a 120 plug. This can also be set up and wired for 220. So that makes it super convenient. I was hoping it came with the plug already on it, because I'm not going to really need it to be ran off of 220. 120 is much more universal. It came with a fairly short cord on it, really. Kind of afraid sometimes with something cheap like this to plug it in. You hear stories about people buying stuff like this and it blowing up and stuff. Alright, so we're plugged in. Let's see if it powers up. Reads out the amperage. 16 amps all the way up to 51. It's actually 50, but give or take. Okay. It comes on. Notice the lights blinked there when I turned it on. Didn't do it that time. The capacitor must be charged. Pretty loud, really. Okay, let me get some things set up here. Here's the ground cable. It's about, I'd say about 6 foot, 5 to 6 foot long. It just has the twist style connector on here. It is labeled wrong though. I don't know about the positive and negative part, but this shows the torch end connecting here and the ground clamp over here, and it obviously is not how it connects. That's not that big a deal. We know what it is. So that goes there. That's the controls. And this part goes on here. This also uses compressed air. It doesn't use like argon or anything like that. It just uses regular compressed air. It does come with a regulator that can mount to the unit itself. And the reviews say this is not the best regulator slash filter, but it's what comes with it, and we're going to go with it. So let me figure out how we're going to mount this, where it's supposed to go, and go from there. Okay, so there's 2 little studs here, and that's where this bracket bolts to, so I'm going to do all this off camera, mount it. This is another piece that hooks into the middle part here. I'm assuming that's just for the, that hooks into this. Probably just for the pressure gauge, I would say, on the front. You'd think they'd have it hooked into the main line somehow, but that's what the book shows, so that's what we'll hook up. So let me get everything hooked up off camera to speed the video up, and we'll look at what I did. This is not the most ideal setup, and I might eventually upgrade this hosing, because I've never had much good luck with the clear type hose, even though it is rated for a certain amount of pressure. So I got a clamp here, clamp it on those barb fittings here. I did not have a barb fitting for the quick connect, so I just used one of these and put it in there and put a clamp on there. Done it before and it's held. If you got the long type, those actually work pretty good for doing that. Hopefully this will work temporarily until I can get a barb fitting. I think I have some somewhere. So let's get ready to see if this is going to hold the pressure or not. Alright, so the compressor just kicked off, so I got it set for about 110 PSI, I think it is. This might just fly apart, but let's see. Yeah, seems like it will. I hear something leaking. We got something leaking up here. They wouldn't act like you didn't want to tighten up. I don't know if it's the clamp or the actual fitting. Yeah, that works. We'll fix that here off camera. I also want to say I was kind of impressed by the little miniature roll of Teflon tape. It's kind of neat. Okay, I'm going to assume this has to be worn to get a pressure reading. Most people say they ran it between like 40 and 60, so we'll just set it at 40 and go from there. It's coming on and everything. Okay, let's get some test metal set up and see what happens. Okay, so the air leak is coming from where the bowl part of the regulator screws on. So I might be able to put an O-ring or something on it, but it should be good enough for testing. So we got it set right in the middle and it's showing 34 amps. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Got the pressure set on 40. We got the ground hooked up over here. This is 1/8 inch steel left over from my workbench top. I'm going to be using this for another project coming up. And everybody talks bad about the torch, saying it's cheaply made, which I'm not saying it's top of the line, but it actually feels pretty good in your hand for some reason. So. Now this isn't a high voltage pilot arc start. It's called a scratch start, so you pretty much have to touch it almost like you're just striking an arc. So it'll probably take a minute to get used to doing that. Might need just a little bit more juice. Now we got it with 30 amps and 60 PSI. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Much better than an angle grinder. Now remember, be sure to wear protective eyewear. If you don't want to look at your arc, it can blind you just like welding. So you don't want to mess around with that. Yeah, you can, this is going to be nice. Trying to cut like a shape on it, you know. Yeah, it's going to be a lifesaver here. My hand's not the steadiest, so it's going to be hard for me to get a good edge without using some type of guide. This is about 1/8 inch aluminum. Should get a good enough ground through that. You're supposed to be able to cut basically any type of metal that will conduct electricity, so. Not the cleanest cut, probably got the amperage a little high on that. The aluminum gives off a very interesting smell. So I'm getting a pretty good cut with it, really, guys. Look at an up close shot of it. Slag's like that normal. Right there's where I was trying to cut without the right amperage setting. And that's kind of what happens with that. But just kind of experimenting with it a little bit, trying to get the feel for it. So now let's, what we got to do, I got to measure. We got to cut this off like this to shorten it. This is going to be the small engine test stand that I've been needing to build for years. There's a whole nother video. Alright, so I got this old piece of steel channel. It's off a desk or something. And I'm using it as a guide here. So I got it set up so I can drag it around here and get the closest edge that I can. Probably eventually I'll cut these off and make it look just a straight edge. I'm just leaving that on there for right now. Might just end up cutting like half of it off. That way if I ever need to cut like a square, you know, I got something to do that with too. So this might be, I just happened to think about that as soon as I started the video. This is a 7/16 of an inch, it appears to be, from the edge of that to get it close. Now you still got to be careful, because if you tilt it, you know, you're going to get it cutting at an angle. So you just got to keep it straight as possible, which it's hard for me to do because my hands are not that steady. So we'll just have to see what happens. We can always grind it a little bit. It'll have to be grounded a little bit anyway to get the slag off of it. So let's get to cutting. Had a little bit of a problem there. The hose was getting entangled up first of all, and I wasn't really watching it good enough, and I was going a little too fast, and it wasn't cutting there. But I think I need the amperage up just maybe a tiny bit more, or maybe the pressure down a little bit, but still pretty clean cut. So touch it up with the grinder a little bit, and then we'll look at it. Here's what the bottom side looks like. You see a decent amount of slag or molten metal, whatever you want to call it. But down here, which was towards the end, it was getting a little bit better, which is when I slowed it down quite a bit, and it seemed to make a big difference. So just a couple minutes with the grinder and we'll have this cleaned up. Alright guys, not perfect, but much better than trying to use a grinder or something to do that.